Chapter 2. The Treason Text. Patriots slandered and Benedict Arnold praised. Revisionists stultified by contradictions. The defamation of our nation's founders that had suddenly appeared in the altered text is indeed astounding. 3 of them present John Hancock as a smuggler, only with one word of his great public services. Samuel Adams fares little better. West calls him the first American political boss, and Hart calls him a shrewd, hard-headed politician. These were the only characterizations given of him. 5 of them teach that Alexander Hamilton is said to have exclaimed, "Your people, sir, is a great beast." 6 proclaim this to have become a popular toast. Thomas Jefferson, may he receive from his fellow citizens the reward of his merit, a halter. Hart teaches that Jefferson was looked upon by the Federalists as an atheist, a liar, and a demagogue. That others regarded him differently is not hinted. Patrick Henry is set forth to our children as a gay, unprosperous, and unknown country lawyer. It is taught of Washington, if you had called him an American, he would have thought you were using some kind of nickname. He was proud to be an Englishman. One has been given a half a page of praise and extenuation to Benedict Arnold. In the same book, those patriot statesmen, who despite their human shortcomings and handicaps, despite the stupendous task they faced, did overcome immeasurable obstacles, did draw the colonies into united action, did establish helpful foreign relations, and did direct the revolution to a successful issue, and are disposed of in a group characterization thus. The Continental Congress was a shameful scene of petty bickerings and schemings among selfish, unworthy, short-sighted, narrow-minded, office-seeking and office-trading plotters. We can afford now to laugh at our forefathers, 2 of these Anglo-American authors observed. Clearly it was to discredit and destroy fundamental American political ideals, principles, and policies in the minds of the American future citizenry, and to set the British annals and imperialistic policies in their stead, that these histories were rewritten. Accordingly, the revisionists set out to teach the English Magna Carta and real source of our liberties, that our Declaration of Independence was substantially plagiarized from English writers, and that the Constitution of the United States is in essence merely a written copy of an unwritten English Constitution. Steadily running through all its fulsome laudation of British democracy, British ideals, British instructions, and British achievements, those of America being made to appear but poor imitations. The War of 1812 is declared a mistake, disgraceful, and an unfortunate conflict between sister nations of the English tongue. It is taught that the Mexican War was a grab of territory, that the North saved the Union only through English heroic support, that our war with Spain was won only because England prevented Germany and all of Europe from taking sides against us, that prior to our laggard entrance into the World War, our fancied security was due only to protecting the shield of the British fleet. Our children in the schools are taught in these texts that our country's history has been hitherto distorted through unthinking adherence to traditional prejudices, but was now to be set right through newer tendencies in historical writing, scientific exactness of historical scholarship, and emotions newfound of gratitude to England. There is much supercilious assertion or obvious implication by these authors that their alterations are the result of their own, quote, modern scientific researches and deductions and exactness of higher historical scholarship, and constantly forced is the inference that our great and simple truths have become so complex and abstruse as to have passed beyond the comprehension of any minds, but those of the higher historical scholarship. Really, their self-asserted new superior methods are not modern, not historical or scholarly, and they are not at all new or superior. They are such as to have been only too commonly in use ever since the first crooked special pleader began to trim facts to fit his case. The pretension of devotion to truth which these revisionists make might cause the unthinking reverence to them, as consecrated savants faithfully patrolling the seashore of the past, and patiently gathering into our annals the grains of gold cast up into the shifting sands of time. The picture is a pretty one, but not true. The true one is not so pretty. With their shameless defamations and distortions, they are more like ghouls digging in the graveyards of dead hatreds for long-buried falsehoods and foulsome slanders. Their self-assumed superiority of methods lacks support. Comparisons among the altered text readily render their claims to scientific exactness ludicrously absurd. Let us see. The colonists were not desperately oppressed. In no other country in the world were there so people well-housed, well-fed, and comfortable, said A.B. Hart in the School History of the United States. The colonists were poor, and it seemed foolhardy to brave the anger of England's king. Everett Barnes in the American History for Grammar Grades Revised in 1920. Really, were the colonists well off, as Hart says, or poor, as the other says? Anyway, the two agree at least that the revolution was not justified in sound sense, which is all they care about. But let's see further. we find an amazing jumble of contradictions. The governmental oppression that caused the revolution was made in Germany. Now there is a villain in the story, and we learn a very useful truth about the English freedom. C.H. Ward, Introduction to Burke's Speech in 1919. If that is true, then ponder well the next. The American Revolution developed into a coalition of four powers against Great Britain, and the American continent became, for the fifth time within a century, the ground on which France and England fought their mighty duel. D.S. Musey, in American History Revised, 1920. And again, something quite different. The disputes that brought about the war were not between the colonists and all the English at home. They were rather between the Tories and Whigs on both sides of the sea. Neighbor against neighbor. Everett Barnes, Short History of America, 1920. The American Revolution is no longer studied as an isolated event resulting from British injustice. W.B. Guiteau, Our United States, 1919. And this, it was part of a 1,000-year contest between the English-speaking people and their kings for more political liberty. W.M. West, History of the American People. Any mind which might reconcile all these contradictory statements in accord and scientific exactness must still be sorely puzzled over this. There is little use trying to learn whose fault it was when the war began. As in most quarrels, the blame is to be laid by one party on the other. A.C. McLaughlin and C.H. Van Tyne. History of the United States for Schools Revised, 1919. Had these revisionists worked from separate viewpoints and found like facts and uniform theories, there might have been less question about their scientific methods of research. But since all had proclaimed the same starting point and objective, yet all arrived with conflicting sets of statements and irreconcilable theories, their own contradictions proved disastrous to their pretense of scientific exactness. If any one of these histories tells the truth regarding the causes of the American Revolution, then all the rest of them must be false. If the statement of grievances in the Declaration of Independence be true, then all of these are false. Such scientific exactness explodes in internal combustion. How does it chance that these revisionists, reasoning from irreconcilable facts, if by courtesy they may be called facts and it may be called reasoning, have so neatly united on one propaganda objective, that the Declaration of Independence was falsehood and the Revolution a farce? Since they have all cast overboard the statement of grievances in the Declaration of Independence, and thrown after it the annals and traditions left us by the fathers, by what chart or compass may it be known that these revisionists, yawning in 10 directions, are sailing one scientific course? The answer is obvious and simple. To the designs of the propaganda, it does not matter which of these new theories be established in our public schools, that the English and colonists alike revolted against the German king, or that there was not much oppression, and that it was a four-power coalition against Britain, or that it was a mere duel between France and England, or that it was partly a contest between neighbors, or that the whole petty affair is so obscure and inconsequential that there is little use to find out anything about it. The inevitable and decisive effect must be that the American school children, our citizen of the future, shall discredit, doubt, dispute over, or never know the inspiring truth of the causes for which the Revolution was fought, and the high principles which our nation was founded and stands, but must learn to look to Britain for example of ideals, achievements, and worth. What is taught to our children in the schools determines our nation's destiny. True hero worship is healthy. It stimulates the young to virile aspirations and gives the masses high models of manhood. The history of the nation is the test of its ideals, the mainstay of its morale, and the propulsive force in its purposes. In our own heroes and true history, our nation has been exceptionally blessed. They have proved unfailing sources of pride and inspiration that have prompted us as a people to staunch character, unparalleled achievement, and unprecedented progress and prestige in the worldwide service and liberation and elevation of mankind.